once you put that on, they don't breathe. So it doesn't matter how cold it is outside or how hot. As soon as you put that on, you're going to start sweating. And if you are claustrophobic, we can tell that pretty quickly as soon as we put the suit on someone and put that visor down. If they're going to have a bad reaction or have an issue with tight spaces, then that usually shows itself pretty quickly.
That would be me. I'd be like, I'm done. I'm out.
Welcome to Crime News Insider. This is Jorge Del Portillo, and with me, as always, is the incomparable Lori Hoff. How are you, Lori?
I'm great. How are you, Jorge?
Good. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
So in this episode, we're going to be talking about the bomb arson team with the San Diego Sheriff's Department. And, arson has been in the news lately, from wildfires to buildings being set on fire during the protests and attempted arsons at the home of political figures. Earlier this year in San Diego, a suspected arson was started at the home of County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher. And just this week, I saw on Monday, authorities are investigating an arson case at the home of the mayor of Vancouver, Washington. And just in another case in Washington, the bomb squad is looking for a suspect who placed a bomb in a car of a funeral attendee and caused it to explode. There's just been a lot of wildfires started too from arson. So I was thinking, wildfire season is coming up in California here, and a lot of them are started by arsons. Lori, have you ever had an arson case?
I've had a few along the way, and, it struck me that it's such a difficult subject for, our police officers and our, first responders who have to put themselves in grave danger to have to either investigate these cases, to see if they need to take care of a bomb or go out there and deal with our wildfires. It's really to their credit, and putting themselves on the line for these types of cases can be really, really dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no better guest to have than someone from the bomb arson unit of the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Anthony Tripoli. Anthony Tripoli has been a San Diego County Deputy Sheriff for 17 years and a detective with the Sheriff's Bomb Arson Unit since 2015. He's a member of the California Conference of Arson Investigators, International Association of Bomb Technicians and Investigators, and the International Association of Arson Investigators. Anthony Tripoli, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So I want to ask you, you're on the Bomb Arson Unit. Can you tell us about your unit, what it is, and the mission of the unit?
Absolutely. So our unit is made up of 7 detectives that are all deputy sheriffs. At one time or another, we were patrol and had other assignments. And we worked up to a point where when an opening came available, we applied. There is a physical test that we go through with some obstacles and basic evaluation as to how you are able to operate inside of a bomb suit. And there is a typical interview panel. Basically make a list off of your performance in those areas. And then if you're selected, you get to fill one of those spots, like I said, when they come available. Currently there's 7 with 1 sergeant. So a team of total of 8.
Okay.
What's the type of training that you have to go through to be ready enough to go out and respond to these types of calls?
So our unit, Bomb and Arson, we have 2 very detailed and specific portions of our job. We kind of look at it as 2 different sides of a house. The bomb side, it takes years to really be proficient and to be trained to a level where you are comfortable working with almost any part of that job. And it kind of comes to a head or you get certified by the FBI. So every public safety bomb technician in the country has gone through the same school. They're all certified by the FBI, and that school is held at the Redstone Arsenal. It's an Army base in Huntsville, Alabama, and that's basic school. There are several follow-on schools that every tech, has the ability to go through and does. And then once your foot is in the door and you're a bomb technician certified, not only the FBI has classes, but the ATF as well. the FBI and what was called NABSCAB, the National Bomb Squad Commanders Advisory Board, which is made up of bomb squad commanders from different squads across the country, kind of set guidelines and offer recommendations for like required training hours or classes. And part of that is it was just been changed from 16 hours a month recommended to 24 hours a month. So here locally, we do a minimum of 24 hours a month of bomb specific training.
So that's just on the bomb side.
That's just exactly just the bomb side. So the fire side, we go through several fire classes to become fire investigators for the department. We work with a lot of CAL FIRE and going through their schools. Those schools can take us several different places. They're not held in one specific location, like I said, HDS or Hazardous Devices School is. But we do go through that training to understand fire dynamics and fire, looking for fire patterns, and to get proficient with kind of how to handle a fire investigation.
So can you quickly tell us about, you respond to a fire, you're investigating it for arson. How do you go about investigating an arson? And can you tell our listeners what is an arson?
Arson is the willful or malicious setting of a fire.
Okay.
At the very basic explanation of it, that's what it is.
So you don't have to use like gasoline or anything. As long as you're just willfully and maliciously setting a fire, that's it. And burning something.
Arson.
Okay.
There's subsections for like charging, whether or not it's an inhabited structure, whether or not it's a wildland or like a grassland fire, whether or not it's a vehicle or like an uninhabited structure. So there are the subsections of it, but arson, just baseline arson, is a willful, maliciously setting a fire or causing a fire.
And then how do you go about investigating, like, oh no, this was accidental versus this is probably suspicious or deliberate?
So we're mission based. Our unit is. We're not proactive. We're not on a patrol capacity. So we get our calls when usually a patrol unit or a fire department calls and requests us for assistance in determining how a fire occurred. Whether or not it's suspicious or not, we don't try to have any type of presumption about a fire. So we go there with just, hey, how did this fire occur? And we step into that with what would be the scientific method, 7-part process. We're going to look and determine, okay, recognize the need. So a fire has occurred, and we're going to look for the origin and cause of that fire to ensure that or try to prevent another fire from occurring there, or determine how it happened. The second part would be to define the problem. So we have a fire. Well, what resources are we going to need? What hazards are there? And to determine that origin and cause. Then we move on to collecting the data. And that could be observations that we see when we look at the fire patterns. It could be collecting witness or video information that could aid us in seeing how the fire looks like it started over here. That's a lot of times one of our best resources when it comes to fire, because fire is destructive in nature and tends to burn,
burns the evidence
and everything that we're having to look for.
What if someone's house, they're just playing the Billy Joel song, "We Didn't Start the Fire"? Is that I'm just kidding. I'm going to cut that out.
You're going to cut that out. No, leave it.
After that, we've collected the data. We move on to analyzing it. So the investigators get together and we start to process that and piece it all together. Because a lot of times it takes an investigative team to go to these fire scenes, especially a large fire or a house. So there's going to be detectives that are going to be interviewing the fire department that first came on scene. They're going to be canvassing the neighborhood, looking for any kind of surveillance video or other witnesses that may or may not have seen something. We're going to have a team of detectives that are going to enter the house, and they're going to delayer and dig out with shovels and picks and whatever tools we need, and look for that origin and cause. So that general area of origin, if we can narrow it down to a specific point of origin. And our goal when we're doing that is to basically look for a competent ignition source. And we're going to look for a fuel that was first ignited, and then try to piece together what event brought those things together. And once we've done that, then we're going to start to develop a hypothesis, and then through inductive reasoning, putting that data together, come up with, okay, well, now we believe that this is how it happened. And then we move on to testing that hypothesis through deductive reasoning, comparing other ideas or things that could have occurred to our believed hypothesis. And then finally selecting what seems consistent with all the data, and determining, hopefully in the end, a point of origin and a specific cause. And those causes can be classified further into generally accidental, natural, incendiary, or undetermined.
And sometimes you, like you said, it burns evidence, or you can't even determine it. So you would just list it as undetermined.
If we cannot determine, like I said, those things, that competent ignition source and a material first ignited and what brought them together, then yes, we will classify it as undetermined. We go to fires, and not every fire is a crime. And like I said, we don't go there with a presumption of we're investigating a crime every time. It's, hey, what do we have? And sometimes it ends up a crime, and sometimes it's not.
Are there some cases, Anthony, that stick out in your mind for arson purposes? Because in my mind, I can think of minor cases where, just the side of a building gets, charred. And I can think of major cases where, you've had animals in the house die. You've had, family members get severely injured. Is there anything that sticks out for you in your career?
I've had pretty much all ends of the spectrum when it comes to arson and fire investigations. I've had all the way up through a multiple homicide case that I've worked with, Escondido, where a body was taken from one location in the back of a vehicle and then set fire to in another area in a different city. And I've had up to even last night, I worked or a couple nights ago, worked a series of fires that were wildland. Someone was walking around and just setting fires on the side of the road.
Yeah, they can span. There's so many different types, and I guess that's why you have to be versatile and keep an open mind when you're doing your investigations.
Yes, yeah, and then we have a lot of fires that are non-criminal, that just electrical. Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, I had a rodent problem. I've had that for a couple of years. Rats chewing in wires, or I've had, my breaker. It trips all the time. I don't know what the problem was, and then, I've been having electrical problems for a while now. It's pretty routine for electrical to be the most likely reason for a fire.
Let's jump to the other half of your unit's duties. Your duties is to investigate callouts for bombs. And you talked a little bit about your training and what you have to go through, but you literally are called out to investigate not just bomb threats, but actually deal with the actual bomb. Like if someone finds a bomb and it's a real bomb, are you the ones, like we see in the movies that are there, like cutting the wires and disabling the bomb?
Yes. So each of the detectives were issued and assigned a bomb suit. So like you would see in the movie, the movie that people know and think about is Hurt Locker. Yeah. The military overseas and wearing that big heavy suit. And yes, we all wear that suit, and we train in it. We operate in it, out on calls.
What's that suit made out of?
It's layers of Kevlar and steel plate, and very heavy ballistic glass for the visor. It has, there's different generations of the suit. It's evolved a little bit over time in some materials and kind of features, but it has radio that can be integrated into it, a speaker so we can communicate easily in and out of it. It has lights, certain variants of the suit have fans in them to help kind of just circulate. They don't really cool you down, but they circulate air so you don't fog up in the visor, and you can actually see what you're doing.
That was one of the things that you said earlier was part of the training or selection is seeing how people operate in a bomb suit. Is it hard? Is it hard to do that?
Yeah, the suits can weigh as much as 100 pounds. And so once you put that on, they don't breathe. So it doesn't matter how cold it is outside or how hot. As soon as you put that on, you're going to start sweating. And if you are claustrophobic, we can tell that pretty quickly as soon as we put the suit on someone and put that visor down. If they're going to have a bad reaction or have an issue with tight spaces, then that usually shows itself pretty quickly.
That would be me. I'd be like, I'm done. I'm out.
Sometimes we call it the dome of ignorance, because once you start putting that visor down and start having to perform tasks, you can get that tunnel vision and kind of start to forget other things that are going on. And so you really have to have a good head on your shoulders and be able to take that multitasking and really understand your surroundings and the mission and the things that need to be done and the order that they need to be done. Because it's a lot of managing equipment, managing time, understanding the threat, understanding explosives and the hazards with explosives to be able to do that mission not only safely, but effectively.
Have you had to respond to a bomb call out and wear that suit and like deal with a real bomb?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Can you tell us about an incident?
Yeah, I've worn that a few times. I think most recently with pipe bombs, but all the way down through just containers of unknown powders. And if you just have enough powder, regardless of whether you see it in a confined in a pipe, I mean, that can be dangerous enough, cause for enough concern to go ahead and get that extra protection that big bomb suit provides.
So these suits, they could protect you from a blast? Is there, I mean, I'm assuming there's some sort of threshold.
Yes. So the suits, they do a really good job, but it comes back to the proverbial, like, it all depends, right?
Right.
How much explosives? How close are you? What's the environment? If I'm going to work on a pipe bomb in the middle of a street that is, let's just call it a 1-inch diameter pipe bomb, 6 inches long, then I can work on that. And I feel confident that if it were to go off, that I wouldn't die. Like, I might lose my hands because they're not protected, but my organ, my vital organs and my head, which is behind all that protection. Yes, I feel like that suit would have no problem absorbing that. But if you could change that to it's a 6-inch diameter pipe up against the side of a building, a concrete building. And so now we start looking at the differences in explosives and blast wave overpressures and effects. So that's where things start to change. And so the suit is great. I'm glad we have it. And like I said, I've used it. But there's a lot of factors on whether or not you are going to survive a blast or not. And so when people ask, and we talk about like going back to the movie The Hurt Locker, if you can remember the scene where he's working on a vehicle bomb and there's a bunch of explosives inside the back of it. And he just takes the suit off and just, don't need that. And that's simply because if it were to go off, that suit's not going to save him. He's going to die either way. And so that was a Hollywood example of where you can see something that, yeah, there's some truth in that, where don't even bother.
It seems like that there has to be a lot of consistent training on your part, even if you're not, disassembling a bomb on a daily basis. You have to be ready to do it.
Absolutely. That's partly why the NABSCAB group had increased our kind of recommended training hours per month. But all this to be said, our number one goal is preservation of life. And so if we've removed and evacuated an area and there's no threat to someone in particular, then we have just a property crime or risk to property. if it's not critical infrastructure or the area can withstand a detonation, then I'm not going to go down there. Wearing a suit or not, we're going to use robots. And our unit, we have several different types of robots. They have different capabilities and design functions that we're going to go ahead and use a robot first.
That makes sense. Do you notice maybe since you've been on this team that your team has specific backgrounds that they come with? Like, do a lot of people come with some sort of a science background, or do some people just fall into it just by happenstance?
Watching the Hurt Locker and then wanting to join it.
Yeah, it's a pretty good mix. So currently we've got guys on the unit that were in the military as bomb techs. And one that he joined the sheriff's department knowing that we have a bomb squad. And that was his goal, was to come here in this unit. Personally, like when I joined the sheriff's department, it wasn't to become a bomb tech or to come to this unit specifically, but as a young patrol guy working and calling this unit out to different scenes that I had, I started to understand, see them and talk to the bomb techs at the time. And man, that's interesting. That, I can see myself, I want to go work there and do that job. So that personally was how I got involved or inspired to work towards and join the unit. But we have guys that have very strong computer backgrounds. But certainly, like you're saying, Lori, it's important to have quite a cross section of guys that are mechanically inclined, that are good working with electronics or chemistry. We do a lot of those types of things with what we do. Being able to build devices and be able to kind of put your mind in that space to think about how things work is super important. But being good detectives is really a major factor too. So being able to interview well and build rapport and be able to do the detective side of the house is very, very important.
That makes sense. We were going back to the wildfires, which we probably experience in San Diego more than most communities. Mm-hmm. What types of things should people watch out for? When should they report? When should we be concerned as citizens that it might be an arson as opposed to some other type of wildfire that, sometimes we can see?
Well, I think, anytime someone is aware of a fire, they should be getting the fire department to take a look, even if they've self-extinguished it themselves.
Okay.
Because the fire department, that's their job. They come out and they can look for hot spots with, FLIR imaging. They can kind of be that first level of triage to see and kind of screen things. And if it catches their eye or something that rises to the level of, I need an investigator to come out and tell me how it started because I don't know, or something could seem weird here, then that's kind of what I would recommend is just always calling on a fire, at least at that level, to get the fire department to see.
And then FLIR is just the forward-looking infrared.
Oh, yeah.
I know the acronym there. Right? I know all the acronyms. I've been doing
We've
this
had some arson cases.
Yeah. It's that nighttime vision stuff, right? From like a helicopter.
Infrared. So
forward-looking infrared.
The image looks the same, day or night. It's like a black and white image, and you can switch it, whether it's black hot or white hot. So you see just the temperature contrasts in the image. And they can see, is this really, really an area that everything's cooled down now? Or do we have a hot spot or something that could rekindle and reignite this fire? So even, like I say, when you self-extinguish something, it's good to have them take a look.
Being a cop, it's always a dangerous job. But your job specifically dealing with bombs and fires, I guess, but especially bombs is all the more salient of that danger. What's the scariest moment you've ever been in while in this unit?
Man, that's a good question. I think maybe some of the scariest has been working with pyrotechnics. More bomb technicians are injured and killed each year just working with pyrotechnic mixtures or fireworks than they are working on bombs like the IEDs, the pipe bombs or ordnance. It's those pyrotechnic mixtures, the flash powders, the black powder, smokeless powders, working with those can be unpredictable, and it's one spark here or there, and a lot of bad things can happen. The injuries happen every year, and worse.
What's the message with that? Is it because it's so combustible or unpredictable? You said unpredictable. Is it that these substances are not contained?
Well, it has to do with the sensitivities of them, especially with like a flash powder. So a chlorate and a metal, typically like a potassium chlorate and an aluminum powder is your typical flash powder. And they have low ignition temperatures, and they're easy to ignite and just very sensitive. And it doesn't take much in handling for that to happen. We train with and have had real calls with homemade explosives. So like the TATP and HMTD, the things that you have seen in the news and heard about, the terrorists make overseas and that have had here domestically. And if listeners can remember here locally, back in 2010, we had the Escondido bomb house. That was a case that our unit handled. It was before I joined the team, but I was on the department, just not on this unit. But at the time, that was the largest domestic cache of homemade explosives ever discovered.
Wow.
And it resulted in them getting an order signed by Governor Schwarzenegger at the time and approval to just burn the house down, because the homemade explosives powders that were residue all throughout the house and dispersed in different parts of the yard were so dangerous to continue to operate. That was really the safest option in the end. So I say fireworks and pyrotechnics are probably one of the more scarier things that I routinely deal with, but working with a homemade explosive on a call is probably, outside of that, the most thing that I've kind of said, "Ooh, this is something that could bite me here. This is dangerous."
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for all the work that you do and putting yourself and your team on the line every day for our community. It's really amazing. And it's cool to see that, we have those specialized services here in our hometown.
Yeah, you're welcome. I love what I do. I think this is the best job on the department. And I've stayed here as long as I have, because I truly enjoy and love what I do. And it's taken a long, long time to master as much as I can and to do what we do. It just takes a lot of time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much again for everything that you do, Anthony Tripoli on the bomb arson unit. But we are not done yet. We're going to play some crime or fiction. Okay. So each episode, we look at the laws on the books, where I come up with 3 crimes. 2 are real, 1 is fake. And I quiz you to see if you could guess which one is the fake. And at home, you can play along, of course. The theme is fire laws throughout the United States. Are you ready?
Yes.
No. Oh, no. Yes.
Here we go. A, in Florida, it's illegal to fail to notify your neighbor of a dangerous fire that you started on your property. B, in Illinois, it's illegal to eat in a restaurant that is on fire. And C, in Racine, Wisconsin, it's illegal to refuse to aid a firefighter. Lori, I usually have our guests go first, but Lori, I'm going to have you go first this time. Yes. Switch it up.
You're going to make me pay. What have I done to you, Jorge, lately? Honestly,
you've gotten a lot of them right, so I'm trying to throw you off.
B seems crazy. Why would you want to eat in a restaurant that's on fire? I don't know. So I'm just going to have to go with B, that it seems like a crazy law that would be illegal because it's so obvious. So I'm just going to go B.
Okay. B.
That's the fake.
B is the fake, the Illinois one, eating in a restaurant. I don't know why that would be legal, but okay. So Anthony, up to you.
See, I was thinking that one seems so obscure that it's gotta be real. Like
in Illinois, they have a lot of people that are willing to take some risks for food.
Yeah, that one seems like it's one of those. It would be easier to establish that's been met. So I was going to say that one was real. I think that the Florida one, having to tell your neighbor anything, is probably fake.
Why would they have that law in Florida, honestly?
Okay, so Florida, it's illegal to fail to notify your neighbor of a dangerous fire you started on your property. You think that's the fake?
I think that's a fake.
Okay, so let's go to C, since you both agree. In Racine, Wisconsin, it's illegal to refuse to aid a firefighter. You both think this is a law, this is a crime, and this is a crime. It's section 66-163. It's called failure to aid firefighting officer. No person shall, without reasonable excuse, refuse or fail upon command to aid any person known to him to be a firefighting officer.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So they can recruit people to firefighter.
Here.
Like I've been training
comitatus there, huh?
Yeah, it's like a posse comitatus. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah. So that is a law on the books. Let's go to A in Florida. It's illegal to fail to notify your neighbor of a dangerous fire you started on your property. Lori thinks this is real and Anthony thinks this is fake. And this one is real. It's actually 877.15. It's called failure to control or report a dangerous fire. And so I kind of phrased it differently, but it basically says any person who knows that a fire is endangering life or property of another and fails to take reasonable measures or notify the person is guilty of a misdemeanor or who fails to give prompt fire alarm. And it says you only have that duty when you start the fire on your property.
Okay.
Someone in Florida, this is really targeting that person.
Yeah. Something specific happened there.
Yeah. They're like, we need to put a law on the books for this.
Right.
That all means B, in Illinois, it's illegal to eat in a restaurant that is on fire. That is not a law on the books. But, I was Googling for weird fire laws and this one kept coming up. It's like, did you know it's illegal to eat in a restaurant that's on fire or that's burning in Illinois? And I'm searching Illinois law. No, it's not all the law in the books. So don't believe the internet is what Abraham Lincoln once said.
Believe Jorge Del Portillo.
Yes. Lori, you won. Congratulations.
It was just a lucky day. That's all I can say.
Good job.
Thank you.
Well, Anthony Tripoli, thank you so much for joining the podcast. Thank you for your service to the community. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
All right. And Lori, thank you as always.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone out there that's listening. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Our Twitter handle is Crime News Insider, and our Gmail is crimenewsinsider@gmail.com. And until next time, this is a Crime News Insider podcast. Expressed on this podcast are solely of the speakers and do not reflect the views of the Deputy DA Association nor the District Attorney. Questions and comments can be sent to crimenewsinsider@gmail.com. Please leave a rating and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to this show. Remember to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @SanDiegoDDAs. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.